Hey everybody, this is Mark Stevenson from ColDesi, and we just wanted to welcome you to today's webinar. Today we are partnering with Mutoh to show off their two beautiful new UV printers here in the ColDesi showroom. And the guy that's doing it is Don Copeland. He's our digital products manager. He's the subject of many of the videos that we've produced. If you have seen any of our videos on YouTube or on Vimeo on our websites, they've probably got Don in them. If something goes wrong with the camera or the sound, it's Hannah on the other side of the microphone. So she is in charge of the technical part of the presentation, and I may make her get in front of the camera at some point. Please ask your questions. Use the questions tab on your Zoom webinar interface, and we'll get back to you as soon as you can. If you have anything specific you want to ask of the guys from Mutoh, the ladies from Mutoh, then just let us know, and we will turn on their microphones and make them answer live. Don Copeland.
We're going to talk to you a little bit about UV in general, specifics of different types of things you can print on and things like that. And unlike me, I actually have a cheat sheet just to make sure I hit all the questions. So if you see me looking down, I just want to make sure I hit all the questions on the bullet points that Mark had put up for the webinar. And what we're going to start off with, the first topic is how do UV printers operate? And I guess I kind of took a general approach to that question. It's an inkjet printer, first and foremost. Don't lose sight of the fact that these things are just like any other large format type of, or even large desktop type of inkjet printer. If you look at them, they're similar in performance in what they do in terms of printing and whatnot to a direct-to-garment printer, a large format printer for EcoSol or dye sublimation, and just any regular printer that may be large format white paper type of printer like you would have. So that aspect of them and the way that they work and the way that the head distributes the ink is pretty much the same as other types of inkjet printers. Now, you're going to have a difference in the machine in that they are what are considered a flatbed type of printer. Flatbed printers, basically either you're going to have a head unit transiting over a bed where the head goes back and forth on a gantry, or you're going to have a bed transiting under a gantry where the head itself is moving back and forth. So they are a little bit different than a roll-fed printer. You think like a large format printer, like an EcoSol or a sublimation printer, and it's going to feed a roll through. Instead of a roll, we actually have a physical bed. So you have a limited from the front to back of it, not a continuous roll like you would have with others. So that's how they work. They're driven very much so in the same way, with the same types of software we would use with other large format type of printers. All right. The difference is when we start to deal with UV, the game gets a little more exciting when we start to play with layers. You think of a direct-to-garment printer and even some eco-solvent printers, you're going to have two layers maybe you deal with. You're going to have a white underbase and then a color layer. That's pretty much it. When you start to deal with UV printers, you're going to add the ability to print on the back of things like clear materials, like acrylic. So you're actually going to reverse your order. You're going to print your colors first and come back with your white on top of it. Or you're going to play with multiple layers underneath of your color layer to build up textures, to build up Braille, build up things like that. So there's a lot of different things. We even actually have, I'm going to grab a guy right here, we did on a UV printer. This is actually an example of a color, a white, you can't see it in there, and then a color again. This is actually one print mode where we send this data twice, once, then white, then once again. So those are things that just kind of differentiate a UV printer from other types of printers. It's about layering. Do we have questions? No. Okay, good. So that's the physical part, what a UV printer does. The software is, again, very much so the same, just manipulating the layers we generate and the way we lay them down. You do have the ability to actually add clear or varnish as well, and that can generate some gorgeous types of finishes to items that you can put on. You can actually put glossy areas, you can put matte areas. You can use that to do buildups as well. You can use it as a spot, all right? You can also use it as a total overcoat as well. We've done a lot of samples here recently where we've had to do full overcoats where they either wanted a really gloss finish or really matte finish. It's one of the cool things about the XpertJet. We can actually mix those on the same print as well, all right? So that would be a coverage overall of how does a UV printer work.
There is one thing that we had somebody comment on is there a difference between DTG and heat pressing and what the UV does?
Good point. So when you think about the inks that are on the marketplace that are using these types of printers we discussed, you have direct-to-garment printers, you have eco-solvent printers, you have sublimation printers, and they're all going to deal with drying of the ink in one method or another. Direct-to-garment printers use a water-based ink, right? And what happens is when we press them, right, we're going to get a reduction in the volume of water that's in there, and we're going to get an activation of polymers, which causes it to bind with the shirt. Okay, so if you started with X amount of ink over here, once it's dried or cured, there's less ink over here, a smaller volume. Same thing with the eco-solvent. You'll print with an eco-solvent printer, and what happens, the ink dries, it gasses out, the volume reduces, and it's dry. A sublimation, similar type of thing. You're printing onto the substrate, you're going to lose some liquid. UV printers, however, use an ink that doesn't contain water, really doesn't contain solvents. It actually contains items that are called monomers and oligomers, which you don't need to know those words other than the fact that oligomer is a fun word to say. But those are building blocks of polymers. And there's also a photo initiator in there that when it gets hit by UV light, which is where the UV and UV printers come from, it actually gets excited and it goes bouncing around the room. Think like a puppy bouncing off the walls when it's little, and it creates a bonding of these oligomers and monomers into polymers, which become solids. Okay, so there's no off-gassing of any significance. If I put this much ink down, I now have this much dried ink, this much hardened ink. Okay, which is what is the cool thing about UV printers. That's what allows us to build up textures, to do things like, you know, three-dimensional looking prints, Braille, ADA type of signage, things like that, because the more ink that I lay down and the more of that ink that I polymerize, the more the buildup I get of that ink. If you look at it from this direction, you could actually see that ink building up and up and up and up. So that would be the difference in the way they cured. Comes out of here, guess what? It's dry, it's cured. It's the hardest thing for folks who've dealt with other types of printers. When you're sitting there, when it comes out and people will be here for demos, something like that, can I touch it? Can I touch it? It's absolutely dry. It's going to take about a day for it to completely settle out, but it is dry to the touch immediately coming out of the machine. Is there another question there, Mark?
Nope, that's good.
Okay, sweet. So we've covered the how they operate, and let's take a close-up look at one side of one of the printers. Let's come over here to the 661, simply because it's bigger. It's easier to climb inside. We're just going to go through some of the main components inside of the printer. And actually on ours, sometimes we will run, this is an add-on we sell. This is actually a vacuum. I mean, this is a silicone type mat. This is used as a hold down. All right. Here's the bed on the Mutohs. This is the 661. It comes standard with a vacuum bed. These holes in here will help draw down and hold space. On the 461, it's an option. You can get it. On this machine, the option is the mat. All right. We include a mat with the 461. So this is the bed. The bed goes in and out, as you can see, and it's going to be able to transit. This is another big difference between these type of printers and the type of inkjet printers. This bed will transit down 9 inches, actually a hair over 5.9 inches, which I can put an item almost 6 inches tall inside of there, run it back, and it'll come back to this component right here, which is actually a laser which shoots across the face here, and it's going to continue to lower this bed until it's no longer being interfered with, at which point it's going to have set the height, then it will the bed. All right, something you're not going to have in other types of printers.
Don, we have a question about the inks. Do the inks on UV printers, and please repeat the question.
Yep.
Do the inks on UV printers suffer from nozzle clogs like other inkjets?
So the question is you have the same type of problems with nozzle clogging with UV printers that you would with a water-based or a solvent-based type of ink. I assume that's the question, Mark? Is that a better way of rephrasing it?
Yeah.
So the answer is no. The main reason being because of what I described earlier about the fact that you do not have a drying process that goes on. You have a polymerization process. Inks do not dry. If you were to take the inks and set them in a room with no UV light exposed, they are not going to gas off and dry out like water-based inks or based inks would, okay? However, if you took them out into the sunlight in your palm of your hand, they're going to harden up pretty quick. So that is the trade-off. But you don't have the issues. you know, it's a lot easier to keep UV light from getting into your print head when the printer's not in use than it is for it being in too dry of an environment or not capping up properly. So you don't have as much of a concern. We've been at this inkjet thing here at ColDesi for, wow, over 15 years. And one of my concerns when I took over the product lines here of the UV printers about 6 years ago was, what's it going to be like when somebody calls me when they bought a $50,000 printer from me and the head's clogged up because of the issues we've seen historically with white inks and whatnot with the direct-to-garment printers. And that's really not been a major issue. So you don't have to worry. That means you don't ignore your maintenance, but it does mean that you do have a little more grace than you would with a water-based or solvent-based ink. We were still inside the printer, right? Yep. Probably one of the cooler things is, and it's going to be hard to see if I can get Hannah to get into here. Right here, you see there's this extra unit on this side of the actual printer right there. That is actually your UV lamp. There's a lamp on the carriage. So as the printer goes across, as it's coming back, that lamp is exposing the inks to the UV light. Cool thing on these XpertJet printers is that light is not continuous. We have the ability to control that light just like we have the ability to control the print head and to control zones of that light. So we can actually get different finishes because the amount of light that you expose it to, the inks to, different finish, especially with varnish, which is what we call clear ink on these machines. So you have control over the lamp to be able to do a gloss or a matte finish at the same time within the machine. Back here, very similar encoder strip rail that the print head carriage runs back and forth on. You will notice that we do close these up. Mostly it's and have like yellow tinted type of glass to protect. That's mostly to keep excess stray light from getting in to while you're printing. It's not something that is absolutely critical, but it's film we actually will trick some sensors able to show into here.
So there's a follow-up question to the ink. How do you clean up spills once they dry?
Turn the lights off first. Don't spill stuff. Yeah. So I mean, really on the Mutohs, these are a cartridge-based machine. So spills are really uncommon, and they do have a pretty common, if you'll spin over here real quick, and I'll show you on this. This is the waste tank, right? Which would be your most likely situation where you were going to get an ink spill on this type of printer. Literally, you can pull this out of here, right? And as you can see, there's a valve on it. You can see right there. Maybe you see it when I turn it sideways there. I'm trying to look at my hand over in the monitor. And you would put this into your waste bottle, secondary waste bottle, turn the valve on, let it drain, turn the valve off, lift it back up, and put it back into here. So you're not likely to have a spill. But if you do get a spill, you need to get after it pretty quickly. And I'm not kidding when I say maybe turn the lights off to some degree, just to keep it from setting up. However, the lights that you're going to have from incandescents or the regular standard lights in the room are not going to cure it as instantly, like if you spilled it outside. The items that, it depends on what you get it on. You know, will the item handle it? We've cleaned up spills that we've made with acetone, as well as the flush solution that you get for these machines is meant to break these inks down. So if you get them while they're still wet, that'll help clean those up as well.
How about if you've made a mistake in printing and you want to print on that object again? Like if you, we get the question in transfer t-shirts all the time.
Yep.
How do I remove the transfer so I can save the shirt? Is there an equivalent in UV?
So Mark asked, or someone asked, is what if I screw up? What if there's a mistake? What if there's an error in a print, right? Unfortunately, if you have a product that you have a good bond with the ink to, you've bought it. That's the downside. The upside is, right? Yep. Yeah. The upside is that you can also, because of that, you're going to have good adhesion. And as Mark was pointing out on one of the samples we had done at one point, we had a little bit of an error. So we were able, by not moving the product, to come back and print over where the error was, because it was actually in a dark space. We were able to come back and hit it with a little bit of a dark color and covered it up. But that's not typically what you're talking about. You realize you misspelled something halfway through, and yeah. That's why you actually have your customers send to you files that already have names typed out in them, so you don't have to own that yourself. Was there other questions on that? Nope. Okay. So that's a lot of the breakout of what the machine's about. Control panel on the front, very similar. We have cartridges on the back loaded in. These machines are both 8-channel machines. They are 6-color, but 8-channel. So you have a cartridge each of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and a cartridge of the clear / varnish, and a cartridge of white. So the varnish and the white are actually feeding 2 of the channels as you go along. So that's the hardware of the machines. The 661 itself comes on a stand, comes with a stand for it. With the 461, you will need to get a table or whatnot. This is actually what we would consider a tabletop type of machine, but you can see the stand under here on the 461 does have wheels on it. Not a bad idea if you're going to have it in a permanent situation. Go ahead and put down there are feet that you can also level it up as well. It's part of the process you go through with the training. All right, other questions on the operation of the sizes of the machines? The machines, if you look at them pretty closely as you back off here, the machines are the same width. You're looking at a print area on this machine, basically of 19 by 23.3. Print area on this machine is basically 19 by a little over 13. All right. So the actual drive engine part of this, the print engine part of this is the same, just a larger print area over here. Both machines are 5.9 inches in depth. So, I mean, but other than that, functionally, they're the same. You set up your artwork the same for these or for any UV printer. You set up your artwork with the basis of, you know, whether you want multiple layers and things like that in your software. We include design software that goes with these machines, allow you to do variable data, stuff like that.
Phil is wondering whether his will be fitting through a doorway.
Sure, define doorway. I mean, you'll need to, in some cases, you're going to need to either find a separate direction or tilt the machine somewhat to get it in, all right? Typically, I would recommend for most of these types of machines, you want to try to find a way to bring it in through a door level as possible, okay? It will fit through a double door, okay? But trying to take this through a standard 34-inch door, 35-inch door can be challenging. If you do it, you need to be very careful and certainly do it before you have inked the machine up. I certainly wouldn't encourage you to move it to another room once you've got it inked up because you'll never get, and they're heavy. They're heavy, that's right. Not everybody can lift them up by themselves, but they are. As we learned on our first machine, we had got our first machine, and I'll say a little humor here. We went to shoot a video for our training of how to do out of the box with a machine. And we only had one of the machines in at this point. We were waiting for our rest of our order of machines come in. And so we were trying to shoot this video and take it out of the box. And you can't do that again. So we took it out of the box, got it all done, and my lead tech and I got the machine up on this. And then we turned the next page and it says, make sure you use 4 people for this. So you do want to, with either one of these machines, when lifting them and putting them in place, you want to make sure you have a few people available to help you pick it up and lay it down because they're not light, as Mark said. They have to be fairly heavy because you want to minimize vibration. And you're doing a lot of printing, scanning back and forth. You want to minimize that whole vibration that would come from that.
Go back to the differences between the two, maybe?
Biggest difference between the two, obviously print area, number one. Vacuum bed standard on the 661, option on the 461. The 661 has an auto height setting and adjustment. It's manual on the 461, so you have a dial to adjust your height up and down. They both have the same type of laser system to set the height, but this one will automatically detect and readjust on its own. Mechanically, though, other than that, they're very much the same. Softwares that come with them, inks that come with them, training that comes with them, support that comes with them, warranty that comes with them is the same on all the machines. You include the stand on the 661, you'll be on your own. We can give you some advice on these tables that we use for the 461 when you buy a machine. Or you can build your own table. We give you some specs of what size you need to for that. Other questions over there, Mark?
Yeah, any special ventilation or anything like that needed?
No, it's not really needed on these machines.
You can't always hear.
Oh, I can't always hear Mark, and a lot of people don't listen to him anyway. You want to know if there's any special ventilation required for the machines? No, there's not. In fact, virtually no odor off of these, and Mark will testify to this. When we first got into UV printing, we had to about wheel him out in a wheelchair the first time he walked into a room with the inks. There's anything that would be out there be very, very minimal, and have not had a person yet complain. I've not even had a person in here mention anything at all about the ink, so it's not a huge concern. If you're working in a closed, low-ceilinged environment, you may want to invest in a small fan like you would put into your bathroom to ventilate, or you could get one of those like HEPA filters that will draw the air out. But I have not had a single person complain about any odors or any concerns, and there's certainly not anything to be of a health concern in terms of the inks and ventilation. All right, I wouldn't suggest you try with any type of UV inks. If you get them on your skin, to get them off pretty readily. When you're doing your maintenance on the machine, you want to wear gloves. Right, certainly.
That's why we don't do.
That's it. That's the reason. Yes, exactly. That's why you don't wear, you don't print with UV inks onto anything that's going to basically contact your skin on a continuous basis. Because if those inks are not set properly, it can cause, it's not going to kill you, but it's going to cause skin, it will cause skin irritation in some people, especially people with sensitive skin. All right, we blow through those pretty good?
Go ahead.
So, and this is a question that Mark didn't put in his list of things that we're going to talk about, is who buys UV printers, right? And hopefully all you online right now buy UV printers. No, UV printers are probably the most diversified product we offer here at ColDesi. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to just look around the room and just make sure I touch on the items we go. We sell embroidery equipment. That was our foundation several years ago. Oh, Hannah's going to actually do a tour. Are you going to do a tour? All right.
We can at least point the camera.
We can point the camera at it. All right. So as you can see over here, we've got our embroidery equipment, our Avante line of embroidery machines. All right. Down to the left from there, we have some of our Hottronics heat presses, and we have our white toner-based laser printers, all right, such as we have our i550, the Uninet, as well as we have 2 of our Oki printers in here that we sell as well. You may not be able to see back here in the corner, have our direct-to-garment equipment. And some of the other equipment you can't see in this room is we sell bling equipment, which would be rhinestone and spangle equipment. We sell vinyl cutters. On top of all of that, we have both the Mutoh and our compressed UV line of UV printers. So we sell a little bit of everything, but the UV printers by far are the most versatile, and we have the widest range of customers who buy them from. When I say that, I mean the diversity of their businesses. I wrote these down to make sure that I don't miss them. The logical ones are the sign guys. You know, sign shops are using these, as are awards and trophy operations, all right? Companies that have lasers. You know, you may have companies do a lot of laser etching and engraving and whatnot, all right? This is just a natural add-on to them because you're taking them from really like one color type of operation to a multicolor operation. Specialty type of shops. We have a customer over in on the county west of us here in Tampa that they sell all, I mean, they basically literally print on anything. You can bring things in. They printed on like the TV trays. They've printed on, I mean, their list goes on and on. There's actually, Mark's got videos up on there of their store. This is a big one too. Manufacturers. We have a number of companies that you would never know have a UV printer or would have a need for a UV printer that are actually using it to identify their products. I mean, if I were to go through the list of stuff we've done just in the last week or two, it's crazy. We've had a company that does carbon fiber items which are used by bomb diffusers specialists that actually set up a grid that they shoot a laser through.
You knew you were going to mention that.
Yeah, you knew I was going to mention that because it has to do with explosives and things. Yeah, but I mean, just off the wall, it's a way, it's something they needed to be able to print. We have companies that have machines that are doing components for airlines, for an airline seats and things like that. It goes on and on. So, yeah. What was that you had? Oh, yeah, the military. I mean, there are urban assault vehicles out there that have printing on it done with some of our UV printers. Graphics houses. What do I mean by a graphics house? Back in the day, we used to call that a service bureau. Nowadays is what most of our customers are. You're multifaceted. You help people get their ideas through, whether it is on T-shirts, whether it's on hats, whether it's on signs, whether it's on cups, whether it's on mugs, all kinds of things like that. Question?
Yeah, Julie has a question. Is there an optimal operating environment for the printers? Are there any issues with hot or cold ink storage? Do they freeze?
Yes.
Julie's not in Florida.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. The only time they freeze in Florida, it doesn't matter because, yeah, somebody was asking about the temperatures and the inks, and one of the questions was, do they freeze? And as you know, we're in Florida, and if your inks freeze, it doesn't matter because hell's with you. It's frozen over as well. But yes, the inks, freezing is not going to, and I don't know we've even tried to freeze them. And this might be a question for Ken. We need to involve our friends from Mutoh.
Oh, yeah.
Ken, concerns with the inks actually freezing, do they freeze? And if they do freeze, do they thaw out well that you can use them? We're going to turn his, hopefully he's not snoring when we turn on his microphone.
Yeah, I'm not snoring. Can you hear me?
Thanks, Ken. What about freezing of inks?
Yeah, don't do it.
Okay.
You know, it just, there are guidelines to ink storage, and I think the lowest they should go is 50 degrees.
Okay.
And yeah, freezing and thawing them out might work fine with bread and other such things, but you know, these are pretty complex chemicals in here.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend freezing them ever.
So what about, another question is what about kind of a high-end temperature? By the way, Ken is the UV specialist at Mutoh America out in Phoenix, Arizona. What about a high-end, especially in operational temperatures?
Operational temperatures, I think we list 85 degrees Fahrenheit is the high end.
So the dead of winter in Arizona.
Yeah, that'd be
Pretty
it.
much. Okay, so there you go. Thank you. Thanks. And one thing that we have noticed with UV printers is, you know, Ken said a low of 50. When you start to get into the 50s, the best way we can describe it is what happens is the inks start to slow down. And that means you're going to have to do more frequent head cleanings and whatnot to keep the machine charged. So definitely, if the inks do get cold, you do want to make sure they're up to temperature before you use them. But I wouldn't recommend taking any piece of equipment that you're spending $20,000 to $50,000 or $60,000 on and putting it into an environment where it's going to get radically cold or radically hot.
Yeah, it's more of an indoor storage.
You don't put it out
in the unair conditioned.
Exactly. You know, if you're in a colder environment, you would want to put it in a situation where you can at least keep the temperature up around 60 or higher, where the printer is at. And if it does sink below that when you come in, let it sit long enough that the inks themselves have come up out of the 50s into the 60s at bare minimum before you try to print with it. And you'll probably need to do an additional head cleaning or two going forward. But that's a good question. Thank you. Where were we? We were talking about gravitons. We sell, obviously, for obvious reasons, a lot of these machines to apparel decorators who are trying to expand their business, right? Nowadays, your customers are coming in to get their corporate work, the stuff that they're doing for their little league teams, their volunteer organizations, whatever it is, right? They're getting those things done somewhere, right? I go back almost 30 years in this industry, and about 10 years ago, I came up with a motto that says, it's just a logo. You know, print it, cut it out of vinyl, do whatever you can, embroider it on this, print it onto that, scratch it onto that with a standard engraver. The idea is to help your customers get their ideas across. They're going somewhere else to somebody to do the pins and things like that, poker chips for casino nights for their things, golf balls for tournaments, Yeti type cups that they're giving away, all that kind of stuff. They're getting that done somewhere. Why not have them get it done there? Because you never know. I might be trying to sell that guy who has the UV printer who's printing their pens for them. I might be trying to sell them a direct-to-garment printer, and you may lose your t-shirt business to them as well. So it's about diversifying. To short story long, that's what I'm really good at. No, long story short, when I started here back almost 16 years ago, that whole part where I had Hannah walk around the room would have ended after the first steps. We sold embroidery machines when I started here in 2004, and now we've expanded to this. We are a much more diversified, much more successful organization doing what we do. And it's a pattern for our customers because a large percentage of our customers don't just have one type of equipment from us. We have a lot of customers who may have 2 or more. We have some customers had 5 or 6. Some of them you would think it was like ColDesi North that have a diversity of equipment.
You may just want to talk about the RIP software, some of the tools
Yep.
have in common, and then go back
Yep,
to that.
that's a good point. One of the things that we've tried to do is to make the transition for our customers as simple as possible. Is anything that we have that prints pretty much comes with a very similar type, in fact, from the same manufacturer of software that we use to rip and print with. The software that we sell along with these, our compressed rip and designer, is the same that goes with our compressed UV printers, with our DTG printers, and with our white laser toners, right? It's a different drivers in it, slightly differences in the way they handle it, but someone who has one of these machines can easily transition to another because the interface is similar. And the cool thing is, from a support standpoint, is you as a customer, that if you have a baseline question on one of the programs, the technician, even if you get a technician for one of our UV printers, and you get a quick question on your white toner rip software, the interface is the same. They can figure it out. Big plus. Back into our who else buys printers. Large companies wanting to bring signage production in-house. So you might have a company that has hundreds of safety signs around, especially in today's environment. You know, when you look at any place you go to, there are a lot more signs in everybody's business than there used to be. Social distancing signs, you know, if your temperature is above this, blah, 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 blah. These are signs that we actually did on the, I think we did these on the 461 on a video. These are actually free downloadable signs from the CDC that we printed out on standard aluminum sign blank. Those are really, really big. And there are companies that actually spend enough money on this type of signage that they can justify putting a machine in their business as well. Or it also, be creative when I'm talking about this stuff. That also means if you got big manufacturers in your area, you may want to go to them and try to get all of their business for their signage for the COVID stuff. That's a huge marketplace, huge. And oh, by the way, the artwork's free. All right. One of the two other ones I wrote down here. One of them's an Etsy store owner, kind of one of the hidden diamonds in the rough of UV printing. Folks are printing onto wood items and things like that, using these in situations where they would historically have cut out of a plastic type of material, a stencil, and hand painted, right? I mean, here's one that we did, this type of sign. This is a traditional type of sign that you would see somebody that might do for an Etsy application. This is just a inexpensive, from Michael's, I think, right? And it was already painted when we got it. And we just printed this on it. That was at the start of all this crazy plague. But that's something they would do with cutting things out by hand and then hand painting them. You lay that in there and it's done. Would have probably taken somebody 45 minutes to do, and it prints in like 8 or 9 minutes, right? Last one is concessions at places like amusement parks. We have a few of our machines in amusement parks where they print out signage and stuff like that when people come out. And if we lose our video, it's because Mark just about died tripping over our wire. All right, that covers the different buys. So what's different about UV? Do we have a question? Just popped up.
Which machine printed that sign?
The COVID signs? The COVID signs were printed on this one right here, the 461. All right. I think the wood sign we may have printed either on one of our larger machines, or it would fit on this machine as well. The size of it, because it's 23.5. I think that's a 24-inch sign. We can fit 24 inches in there. It's not, and we didn't print a full 24 inches on that. So what are different about UV is versus other types of decoration. Now, instead of talking about UV versus direct-to-garment or UV, what are the methods that people would use to decorate similar type of stuff? Is that a better way of putting the question, Mark? Yeah. I think it is. So you're, from a digital standpoint, let's take that spin, is about the two main ways that you would see it done would either be with a large format printer, where you print on vinyl, and then you cut out vinyl. There are two types of ways to do that. You can print on a vinyl printer and then have a separate vinyl cutter that has, you print registration marks in line and print and cut, which is usually the people who are doing higher production do that because you don't want to tie up your print. You want your printing on a regular basis. Our print and cut machines that physically print and then come back and cut, which are usually less productive, but they also limit less space as well. So that's one method. You could use that. That creates a decal, all right? The bigger the decal, the harder it is to apply. Regardless of what the decal is, consistency from one piece to another. If you knew how many people I had spoken to that the reason they wanted to get rid of their current process is because of the inconsistency in application of decals by their employees. You know, an employee's ability to consistently place a decal on an item can vary from day to day based on what's going on in their life, whether they've had enough to eat, too much coffee, whatever's going on. So they want consistency in that. The second method would be through sublimation. Sublimation is when you're talking about going to rigid items, it is a process where you print a transfer. The transfer then has to be taped to the item, and then it has to be heat pressed. That means you have to have an item that there's a heat press that will take it. Traditionally, that is limited to, for the most part, flat items, completely flat items, slightly curved items like the face of a baseball cap, or something like a coffee cup that you can put into a mug press. Things that have some strange contours and whatnot to it, short of going to a system where you use a vacuum type of solution for sublimation, isn't going to work. The other method, which is probably the most common method that we see larger users trying to migrate away from, is a process called pad printing. Pad printing would be the equivalent of screen printing in the t-shirt world. You basically are generating what it's called a giclée. I'm sorry, not a giclée. I'm going to get I used the wrong word. You use a plate that you actually have engraved or photo etched into each color, and then it's picked up and placed one color at a time. Very few people do more than 4 color. Most people are 1 or 2 color pad printing at all. It is very labor intensive up front, and it is a lot of cleanup at the backside as well. A lot of waste, not something you're going to do 10, 50, 100, in a lot of cases even 1,000 items, because you have so much waste in the way the process is set up. And it's one item at a time. Somebody is having to hand place the items for each one as they go along. So it's not a real practical application, and it certainly doesn't allow for variability. Whereas if I want to go full color right here, if I want to do 100 golf balls and I wanted to put, I guess we'd do 120 because you do golf balls in dozens, especially if you golf like I do. And we want to have 10 different names on each of, on those golf balls, we have different names on them. You literally just change it in the software and you go. If you were doing that with pad printing, you would have to set up a separate color or separate pad for each one of those names you're going to pad print on. So that's another situation where these are compared to. Most directly, you're going to find from a substrate standpoint, you're going to be completing with pad printing. Speaking of substrates, what can I print on my UV printer is the next question, right? So as you've seen, if you want to scroll over here, this is by no means, ignore the t-shirts, this is by no means a limitation, but I'll kind of scan through and put toilet seats is a quite popular item to print with UV printers nowadays now, but that gives you an idea of that type of material. We've printed on, that's a clear acrylic up there in the top corner. All right, you'll see a ping pong ball. We've printed on golf balls. There's a cell phone cover there. You also have, there you go, in front of the cell phone cover, you have I knew that was getting ready. We knew that was going to happen. That is a Travertine tile. That's just a standard Travertine tile. As you see, you buy those at Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that, or you can buy them in bulk from tile companies. Print on those. Those can be used as coasters. You can clear coat those with like a polyurethane or an automotive clear coat. Use those for backsplashes or anything like that. So describe that one. That's actually a clear, that's a front printed, I believe, acrylic that we printed white on the front and then the colors on top of. And then we pop down here, I'll grab this one up. This is actually a back printed acrylic. So we printed the color and then we put white on the back of it. I showed you the caricature earlier on, which was a sandwich print where you had color, white, color. So you could see it from both sides. This is just a simple kind of a galvanized type of metal print. This is from, again, from our office is literally half a mile from Michael's, so we're in there quite frequently. You have that. This is a wooden paddle that we printed on. I think Hannah's got a candle that we printed on. All kinds of different signage. You see there's a ton of different canvases in here. This is a burial urn. You do a burial urn. That was actually that wasn't even real wood. That was an MDF. It's a laminate on the outside. We printed on all the sides of it to give it a different result. This is a Braille print that we did on, it's done on the 661, as you can see. So you see the texture, we're getting a good view. Oh yeah, you can see there. You see the buildup. Right here is your tactile text, and here's your Braille. You can do that. We showed you the coroplast sign. We've got an urn down at the bottom. We've got metal. I mean, we have, that's canvases. Yeah, we do the art canvases we've printed on. So, and that's just the start, guys. I mean, it's crazy. We have customers who are doing Kydex. Kydex is a heat formable material. A lot of times it's used to make holsters custom to a weapon. I've seen people use it to take tools they use, like a radio of some kind, a knife that they may need, or a tool they need to use to put on a belt or something like that. And instead of it just being generic, it is literally custom fitted to the item itself. So that's kind of just a start to the list of things. If I were to try to list all of the things that we have printed in our days here, we printed on a floor mat for a car, right? We've printed on grass mat. Yeah, we did a core mat, which is made out of coconut husk.
Live cats.
Yeah, flat cats.
Live cats.
Live cat. Live cats. The problem is then you have a problem with registration.
And it's Coro. I'm not sure.
We did. Yeah, we did mention Coro. Yep. Core and Coro both. Golf balls. You can do textures. Mark, throw me over that one of those cell phones that has texture on it. Cell phone cases that has texture on it. You can do more than just put a picture of Fluffy on a cell phone case. This is a texture print done here. All right. Bill's cell phone case has got some miles on it, but you can see this is actually ridged. All right. The software generates this using our texture wizard very easily. They print it on this print actually lasted longer on the cell phone case than the cell phone case did.
That's good for the next question, which is, how does it do with outdoor materials? Does it get thin? Does it wear out?
Oh yeah. So the question is, how does it do with outdoor materials? Well, coroplast signs are outdoor materials. We have the TGI Friday sign that we did on the 461 here. The COVID signs, those type of signs. Parking sign outside for the boss. We actually have his sign has been out there over a year, right? That we had that because he came back from his annual summer vacation last year, and we surprised him with the sign, the Big Cheese El Jefe sign, and that's been over there a year, and it's solid. We actually have signs here local that were done probably 3.5 years ago for a homeowners association, full color. And remember, we're in Tampa, Florida, y'all, which is almost as warm as Arizona, almost as sunny, but we get the bonus of the fact that we have a little bit of humidity too. The sign's 3.5 years old. We printed it on like a metal alumicore type of material. 3.5 years in, and it's still showing no deterioration. They're rated for 2 years. That's worst case scenario, worst exposure.
Do you have to add clear or anything for outdoor exposures? Or is it okay with no coating?
You can, obviously, anything you do to add another layer of protection is going to give you greater outdoor durability. The sign we did outside we did nothing to it. It was just a standard type of print. You certainly can. You can do an extra coat of clear through the machine. The only reason I would encourage you to do that is if you're looking for a specific effect, or if you wanted to spend more money than you needed to, because you can also, if you want to do a clear coat, you can simply just do a spray laminate over top of. There are sprays out there in the sign industry specifically designed to give you better UV durability, and as well as better weatherproofing. The inks are fast. When I say that, they're not going to run on you once they get exposed to water. They're not, because they never were water, they're not going to return to a water state when water hits them.
We've got about 5 or 10 minutes left.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions? Do you have a question there?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So, how much is a UV printer? Right. It's going to vary. We have models that range, and just in our world, we have models that range from around $20,000 up to the big boy, the 2508 from Mutoh, which is a true 4x8 flatbed, which depending on how many heads you get into the machine can push the $100,000 range. All right. So
I'm sharing the screen.
Oh, you're sharing screen. So you see, The Value Jet, which is the precursor to the XpertJets, those are $17,995. We have a couple of those left. Still a great machine. It's just been supplanted with the new machine. But if you're just looking for jumping into it as an entry level, you have a specific application. It had a 2.7-inch depth height. So, you know, that's one of the limitations over these, but it's a great place to start. $18,000 full blown. In fact, we've had a couple of the employees here have actually threatened to go ahead and just buy those because they're so excited about the stuff we do. All the way up 21 for the 461, 28 for the Value Jet, the 626 UF, which is the precursor to the 661, which is 29. Then we have our compress models that range from about $30,000 to over 50. And then you have the 28508, which is the 4-foot by 8-foot, the big boy that starts at 85 with additional heads. You're going to get yourself up in the mid-90s range with that. So as you see, it runs the gamut based on application. And you really, just like anything else, you know, what tool do you buy? Some people buy Black & Decker power tools, and some people buy Makita. Other people are just right in the range with DeWalt. You know, so what is your application? How much are you going to use it? Do you need the overkill of a ton of size or a ton of depth? That's really, really based on that. And that's what's really strong about interfacing with us here at ColDesi about it. The people you talk to on the phone know this. They do this every day, and they're there to guide you in the right direction. It's not just about selling you one machine. We want to sell you all the machines. So the best way to sell you all the machines is to make sure that you're successful with the first machine and the second machine and the third machine. I would say 25 to 30% on an average monthly basis of the equipment we sell is repeat customers. And it's because of the fact that we treat you right, we guide you in the right direction, we don't oversell you, but we also slap you upside the head if you're trying to underbuy, right? And that's really what it's about, is making sure that you have the right tool for the right job and it fits into your budget, fits into your door, all those type of applications.
Before we go, would you ask everybody what they would like to see on our next
Yes. Yes, so I don't have to just stand here and randomly babble, as Mark asked. What would you like to see, now that we've kind of teased you in a little bit with the machines, what would you like to see in a webinar format as opposed to just one of our videos in the next webinar or two of maybe applications, software, things like that? Whatever you'd like to know, please respond back in here, and you know, Mark can, or respond to email you have. Oh, good question. Can you give a brief summary of the maintenance on these machines? Yes, I can. And this is pretty much true of any inkjet printer. However, there are a few added caveats with a UV printer. At the end of production, you want to clean your toys up and put them away clean, right? If you work with power tools or any other type of tool, woodworking equipment, when you're done working with it, you clean it up and put it away, oil it up, whatever, make sure it's clean. With these machines, you're going to want to clean the edges of the print head. You're going to want to clean the capping assembly. In UV printers have a spit tray where they spit into. You're going to clean that spit tray out. Periodically, you're going to clean the edges of the capping station, which is where the print head stays when it's at home. You're going to clean the encoder strip periodically, which is the strip that runs across the back. That's probably once a week to every 2 weeks, depends on the type of printing you're doing. Thirdly, you have a rubber wiper blade in there. That's one of the regular maintenance type of items. With these machines, checking your waste tanks on a regular basis. If your printer has any filters on it, some of our larger UV printers have an ink filter inline on the white ink. You're going to check that and replace that periodically. The Mutohs are really good. They tell you. They tell you when to do regular maintenance on the machine. And it takes about 10, 15 minutes to do a day if you're doing it regular, if you're working the machine hard.
And talk about our training just for briefly, so they know that they'll learn.
We have training. Is that brief? Mark said talk about our training briefly. So we do live online training on the machines. We have self-paced to get you started. The video that I referenced earlier about the out of the box, that's a self-paced. We'll be glad to work with you live online if you need that. But for most people, you don't need somebody sitting there, no, don't do that. No, don't cut that, right? But we have videos that show you how to get the machine out, get it in position, get if you see down underneath here, there's a collection of metal with little red tabs on it, how to remove all those from the machines. Those are the lockdowns that are inside of the machine. We get you through that with a video. We get you through installation of the software with a video. And then, the basic procedures of it, how to get your first nozzle check and everything out of it. Then we do live online training. And we have software training that we will go through with you one-on-one as well. But there is self-paced training on there, both in the design software and the RIP software, how to set things up and how to print. And we never stop training our customers at ColDesi, especially in UV, because what you're doing today may not be what you're doing a year and a half from now. You may get a new item. You may have done nothing but flats, and all of a sudden somebody wants to do golf balls, right? And that's what we do. I'm thinking about that. I grab my golf ball jig.
What other consumables?
What are the consumables are pretty limited. Obviously, you have your inks. You have a flush that you mainly use to clean. One of the cool things about these machines is when you get them in and you ink them up, you're going to, first thing you'll do is you'll run a cleaning solution through the lines to clean out, flush out the lines of the transit fluid that's in it. And we actually capture that when we're done, use that for the maintenance ongoing with it. After that, you buy a flush solution to help clean with. Depending on what type of substrate you're printing to, you may need adhesion promoters, which will give you better adhesion to certain items. So that is an ongoing for some folks. Swabs and clean pads, things like that. Not a radical amount. People have asked me what do I cost a day. Most of these machines are going to be $1 to $1.50 a day average between the liquids you use, the swabs, and the ink that's used in the head cleanings and whatnot.
Two questions. Can it do water bottles?
Okay. If they are cylindrical and if they top out at less than 5.9 inches with the rotary jig, which is on the 661, absolutely you can. They need to be cylindrical.
And what's the cost? What are the costs associated with maintenance?
What I just said. Well, you were looking, yeah, it said, okay. Mark wasn't listening, I said.
I was reading the question.
Oh, he was reading the question as I was saying it. $1 to $2 a day is probably realistic if you're using the machine 5-6 days a week, all right? Because you're going to have more associated. If I don't run this machine for a week, you're going to have the machine does do automated head cleanings, but you're not going to be using the swabs and the things like that. But if you figure $50 a month, you're probably going to be fair on what your ongoing cost of maintenance are on the machine. This may sound a little crazy. The more you use the machine, the less you're probably going to need to do maintenance on it, in the sense of things just needing to run through, having to do an additional head cleaning to get a good nozzle check and whatnot. So these machines, we very rarely have to do a standard head cleaning on them, because they're pretty much every day when we come in, if we try to print with them, they're ready to go after we do a nozzle check.
I think that's good. What would we like these folks to do next?
What would you like them to do next?
Yes.
Call and buy a printer. Actually, I'm lying. We'd like you to call and buy 2 printers. No, contact your sales rep. You're probably in here because you're in our database, which means you probably have a sales rep assigned. If you don't, call in, go to the UV line, and one of our UV experts will be there to answer questions. And if you kind of go over the edge on them, they'll get me involved. Be glad to help. I probably talk to half of our customers who buy machines, because we get more technical questions that every sales rep can't know. One of the things I didn't bring up, we also have a couple of items. This is an accessory. This is a golf ball jig that we have to hold 60 balls, which will work in this or this. We also have one that will hold 108 balls. It will go in this as an item we sell as well.
What are the brands of the inks, and where do you buy them?
The inks are actually Mutoh inks. They are cartridge-based inks, and I think I had one sitting back. Oh, it's showing its bag here, but they're cartridge-based inks. They are the Mutoh. These are the UH21 inks, all right? We do inventory of these here, and you'll put a link in here? Great. They're about $94 a cartridge. Breaks out to about $409 a liter for ink. Most of the items you see, golf balls you see printed, are less than $0.25 penny to print. Some of the items, this is a white cell phone case. Something like that costs you 15 cents or so to print. So the costs are not extravagant. When you start to do some build-up, you're going to have a little more associated. The good thing is like when you're doing the Braille or the ADA type stuff, even build-up, it's really the sign it's going to be the color that you want it to be. A lot of backing that you're going to have to print down there. We have, yeah, Mark's not going to find those on there because he's a little challenged with the website, but we'll get it out to you. But the ink, the UV ink cartridges are available through our website, and you can, yeah, it will give you a link on that. Other questions there?
Nope, we're all done.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys for attending. If you have any questions that arise from this, or you want to give us some direction for where you want us to go with future UV type of webinars, it's been a while. How long has it been, Mark? Woo! Mark and I have been doing these for about 8 or 9 years. We've been doing these, and we used to do these like once every 2 weeks. It's good being live because we get instant response back to your questions, and it also helps to guide us on the right direction as opposed to us just guessing in a video. So again, thanks for watching. I'm with the Mutoh XpertJet line of printers here at ColDesi. Thanks for watching us today.